Come on. ICE was out busting MS-13 today in the raids. Of course, Buffoon Bass and Newsom and the crew were having hissy fits. Even Roger Penske, because they used one of his rental trucks. We go.
Park area, the Department of Homeland Security carrying out an immigration raid this morning. Early reports indicate the area surrounding a Home Depot on Wilshire Boulevard was full of migrants. Fox News' Matt Finn reports 16 people were taken into custody. We're, of course, working to learn more about what happened and more.
We know what happened. MS-13 gangs have been taking over the MacArthur Park area and down there. And they're human trafficking these guys at the Home Depot, if you didn't know. So let's cut to the chase, cut with the crapiola that's been going on. We head further into this. Residents dish up a special delivery for a suspected social serial mail thief. ABC
You like to steal mail? You like to steal mail? Yeah? You like to steal mail? Huh? 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 You like to steal mail? You like to steal mail, mother? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Where are you going? Huh? Oh! Huh? Help him out, dude. He put on the exact same hat from the wanted poster.
So, we've said when you push people to the limits, they're going to do what they have to do to protect themselves and their property and their families and their neighborhoods. Not advocating doing anything illegal, of course. But Trump, punks, the absolutely stupid media and the latest Howard Stern, it appears to be fired.
Announced that he was leaving his show. Howard Stern announced that he and Sirius XM Radio are parting ways. Do you think the hate Trump business model that's been in the entertainment business is going out of business because it's not popular with the American people?
Well, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time, and I would say pretty much from the beginning. Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here, I could go outside on the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, you know, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that. Howard Stern, it's a name I haven't heard. I used to do a show, we used to have fun, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated?
Yeah, they're going to separate ways because I think what they're offering salary-wise is real low than what he's getting.
You know when he went down?
Whenever you want.
You know when he went down? No, before. When he endorsed Hillary Clinton, he lost his audience.
This is why we love Donald J. Telling it like it is. Besides all the idiot media out there that goes and puts all this drivel out. Yeah, you know when Stern lost his audience? When he endorsed Hillary for president. It's what we voted for and why we love Donald J. New York Post, and we got subpoenas. It's subpoena time. Jack Smith is the guy that went down there and did that subpoena down at Mar-a-Lago with the raid. When they were looking for this stuff on Russiagate that they thought they lost, that they thought they destroyed, that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino rescued from hitting the incinerator, along with Hillary and Bill and Comey and Strunk. Was it Strunk we paid $2 million to? Holy frickin' cow. They're throwing dildos on the court at the WNBA games. I kid you not. This one, here's one of the examples of it.
Oh, look out. Something just came onto the floor.
It's not something, it's a green dildo.
Just flew in as the free throw was being made. And it looked like that hit a player, too.
That's the third or fourth time that has happened at a WNBA game. Seems to be a phenomena going around that they're throwing green dildos out on the courts. I wonder if that's a message or what the deeper meaning behind all this treachery that's going on. One of the things, and we'll get, hopefully, if we don't get into it today, with all the stuff going on, Pacific Beach and the boardwalk down there in San Diego in the 70s. All I can say is, how times have changed. It's incredible. There's that funky slide guitar music. It comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the Evil FP Network, Rumble X, YouTube on the Roy Bleckert channel. As we say, man, what a day. Love that Trump punked old Howard Stern and Hillary. On top of that, the package thief or mail thief. Oh, man, we don't encourage to do anything illegal. But folks are going to take stuff, again, into their own hands. People are going to do what it takes to make their neighborhoods safe, and their family safe, and their community safe. And if the politicians and the cops and the prosecutors ain't going to get off their rear ends and get stuff done, do their job, and the people will have to get the job done. Look, in LA, they went and repainted the crosswalks around the park because it was dangerous for the kids because the city wouldn't do it. And then they sandblasted off, say, well, you didn't do it, and painted it just like it was again. So we don't ask for anything that we don't pay for. We pay for these services to keep our communities safe, to keep our roads maintained, have some semi-competent schools, which we're not even close to getting. On top of that, the whole ICE deal. Down there in MacArthur Park, in that area in downtown LA, has been basically run and taken over by the MS-13 gangs. They're drug trafficking, doing that. That's why they want the vagrants around, to keeps everybody away that shouldn't be there to get in the way of their business. Well, that should be there but aren't. And we as a society have let that go too long. Finally, we have Trump and Assaley, Pam Bondi, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, that are actually going in there and cleaning it up. Like Trump said yesterday, we're cleaning up LA ahead of the Olympics. It ain't going to look like an asshole down there. no way, no how. So it was fantastic that those dudes jumped out of the Penske truck. That was a pretty good deal. Rent a Penske truck. The dude that was driving the truck said, "Oh, we're looking for workers." And here they all come. Woof. Then, as you saw in the intro, Katie barred the door. Here they come out of the truck. And kaboom. Now we have all sorts of different reactions. This is Representative Jimmy Gomez crying crocodile tears, as they say. ICE is using moving vans to conduct raids. Okay. So, breaking ICE is taking immigrants in Los Angeles using unmarked vehicles. There you see it. There's the Penske truck. There's the dude marching them out. Well, they got a nice vehicle to take them all to jail in. So stuff it up your ass, Representative Jimmy Gomez. This is what we voted for. We want safe communities. We're not putting up with male thieves or MS-13 running human trafficking and all this other stuff. Look at the human trafficking that's coming out of the juvenile hall in LA. Billions being paid out now. They were trafficking the little boys and girls in juvenile hall. I wonder what's going on down in Harmony Haven and the social worker allegedly checking the girls into the motel that burnt down. We don't want to talk transparency or accountability. We want action on accountability. We want you to tell us what the hell is going on, and we want arrests, prosecutions, and people put in jail. We need the Indio jail open. The failure of the 5 Riverside County supervisors to not open 1,200 brand new jail beds that have been just harboring cockroaches for 6 years now. Do not talk about public safety. Not one of you 5 up there at the County Board of Supervisors. Medina, X, Chuck E. Cheese, Victor, Karen, no way. You are against public safety, and you're putting the citizens, the 2.5 million in Riverside County, in peril every day because you're not doing your job. $10 billion, and you can't fund the jail after we spent $300 million building it. We're not putting up with any of this stuff. ICE, none of you complainers, none of you ones that are yakking like Jimmy Gomez or whatever the hell he's bitching about. Yeah. We're carting them out. This is what we want to see. We want to see arrests in Riverside County. We want to see you cleaning up the Department of Public Services, and especially don't be human trafficking kids, foster kids, juvenile hall, and anything else. There's been allegations. There's been young girls say they've been sex trafficked out of Riverside County, under the control of Riverside County. Minor girls have posted that. Now, that's their story. Again, like we said, this is what we voted for. Like acting U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley says, for those of you that thought immigration enforcement had stopped in Southern California, think again. The enforcement of federal law is not negotiable. There are no sanctuaries from the reach of the federal government. Fox News cameras, and I think it was Bill Maloogian or something, they were in that Penske van. That's why you're getting the inside stories from Fox News on that. Penske put out a story. Well, you're not supposed to transport people in our vans. This one coming out, what, 5 or 6 years ago, 58 illegals had stuffed in one of their vans. They didn't issue no press release against that. I mean, I know Roger Penske worked for him. One of my teenage jobs was maintaining the IROC car they had out here at Riverside Raceway. He was part of that with Les Richter. Penske Truck Rentals should not be answering press statements saying, well, our truck should be used as hauling people. They're federal ICE agents. There are exceptions to every frickin' rule. Hey, a jury in the United States can nullify any law. Nothing is cast in concrete. Yeah, for the general public and most people, and you don't want people riding their trucks, I get that. But it isn't Scott Wiener, the senator from San Fran. He was you got all the sympathizers. Are we going to let the 3% minority run our lives? That's what this all boils down to. Are you going to let these clowns do this to us? Because that's what has happened. And this is the changes 50 years ago. This is the boardwalk in San Diego. Notice anything? Notice, for one, there's not a lot of fat people around. They're riding bikes and roller skating. They're not having to be dragged out there in a stretcher, hauled in by an ambulance, dragged out with a stretcher in an RV because they can't walk. Or now they're putting, I don't know if it was here somewhere, they're putting up big housing tract tents. Nobody has any respect. I can tell you, back in the day, our beaches were not effed up. Our society was not effed up 50 years ago. It worked. People had respect for each other. You didn't go steal. If you went and stole somebody's mail, that little video that you seen before 50 years ago, you would have been lucky if you'd have got that treatment. We need to get back to a society where our kids were educated 50 years ago in reading and writing and arithmetic, where you could afford to go to Disneyland or skiing up in the mountains, or attend the races at Riverside or Ascot or Orange Show Speedway or wherever, Irwindale Dragway, Orange County. do hundreds of other things. Roller skating. Now, parents lock their kids up, and I get some of it just from the safety standpoint. Back then, parents would have dropped you off at the movie theater, the roller rink, the beach. God, we're glad we can get away from those critters for a few hours. And they didn't think nothing of it. And it wasn't like there were 3 people around. As you see, that's circa 50 years ago at the boardwalk. They're down in San Diego. And again, this comes down to people need to have respect for themselves and for others. First, if you don't have respect for yourself, you're not going to have any respect for anybody else. So we get all this chaos. Clean out the gang members. Tell Newsom to stick his redistricting, gerrymandering BS and his gasoline prices. And you know what? After castigating all of us and no drilling, and we're all killing everybody under COVID or burning fossil fuels, and now you're begging the oil companies to come back here and drill, baby, drill. It's beyond unbelievable. But I think if we keep on the pace Trump is going, what? Another 100 million coming in from Apple. We're up to trillions of investment coming into the United States. Jobs increasing for people born in the United States, not foreign workers, i.e., illegals.
Thirty seconds.
That's what we got to do. Back to this 1970s, the boardwalk, San Diego, where people had respect for themselves and for others, and society worked for everybody instead of the chaos we have now. We'll be joining the Mighty Met 1490 here in a few seconds. Hopefully Susan Shelley calls in. We'll pick some of this up with her.
5 seconds. Here we go.
More stuff going on.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes out every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join our vast video audience in the Evil FB Network, Rumble, X, YouTube, on the Roy Bleckert channels. Check us out, subscribe, do all that good stuff on that. Of course, we had the ICE raids of the ICE agents jumping out of the Penske truck. That was a cool move. They come up, the dude that was driving the truck said, hey, we need some workers. When they all piled around the truck, boom, here come the ICE agents out. And of course, you have the haranguing by Scott Wieners and Representative Jimmy Gomez and that, boo-hoo, buffoon bass. Newsom's laid off this one. Not too surprising. As schizophrenic as he is. We'll get into that with Susan in a minute. But we're not putting up with this crap anymore. Like the dudes caught the mail thief and they took care of biz. Now, we're not advocating doing anything illegal, but like this, the 70s, the boardwalk in San Diego, when people had respect for themselves and for others. Like I said, notice, no fat people. People riding bikes, having fun, roller skating, probably having a beer or two. I want you today to tell me, oh, we were just a bunch of racist white hillbillies. Didn't know what we were tortured everybody. Oh, everybody looks tortured in that. The women look tortured and afraid in that picture. That, my friends, look at any picture. That was the norm. So the evidence shows, you give me the evidence that shows where we're at today and where we've been headed, and if we don't turn this around, that's what you think is a number one. That's where you want to be. We shall see of how it all works out. But as we usually do on a Wednesday, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts, more important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to IU News Wire with Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
So Newsom's out there trying to get his redistricting deal in. This is latest 13,492nd remake in the past 3 months that he's pulled off, that he's now trying to go left of Bernie Sanders and AOC on all this stuff, and he's going to do the gerrymander, or try to do the gerrymander of all time in California. This is my premise. We have 53 congressional members. In the last 20 years, statewide office taken, Republicans got 40% of the vote. Mm-hmm. So if you go by that, we should have 21 Republican congressional representatives and 32 Democrats. We have 45 Democrats and 8. And the redistricting, the Citizens Redistricting Commission was supposed to take care of this, has admitted they gerrymandered this map to do exactly what it's done. So he wants to gerrymander it further. With his map, he wants to get it down to 50 Democrats to 3 using this excuse of Texas. You know what? You're not governor of Texas. You have no authority. You are the governor of California, and you're trying to pull off the biggest gerrymander of all time. What say you, Susan?
You were so right. And not only is it a gerrymander, there was a time when the legislature in California had the power to draw the lines, and they could draw the lines legally however they wanted for any partisan purpose. But that's no longer the case, because the voters took that power away from the legislature with 2 initiatives. It was in 2008, it was Prop 11. That was all the state offices. And then in 2010, it was Prop 20 that added the congressional districts. And Prop 20 passed with 61% approval. And on the same ballot, there was a measure that said, do you want to repeal the Citizens Commission completely and go back to the old way? And that was dramatically defeated. No, they did not want to go back. They want the Citizens Commission. So even though it's true that it has not given us balance that matches the voters' political views, it's still popular with the voters. And I think Newsom is just heading for a wreck doing this. I can't imagine that this is going to work out well for him.
You're 111% right. As bad as the redistricting commission is, Newsom wants to make it worse. And he's doing this to placate his presidential run because he knows he's got to run way to the center of the left. He's failed on his podcasts. Is that, Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon owned him. Then he tried different ones. He tried doing every one, tried going on Rogan. He looked stupid. He was trying to do everything. And now he's down to figuring, now his latest rendition is, I'm going to try to capture the absolute far fringe kook left to try and do this. And among this, and even as bad as this redistricting thing is, the worst thing, and what should be played up, that hardly anybody is, it did come out in Politico of all places, he is now trying to negotiate with the big oil companies to come back in here and drill, baby, drill. We need oil and gas because people are pissed in California because they're paying 50% more than the national average and probably 100% more than we did. Because we can, if we would unleash oil and gas drilling, we would produce in 5 years. I guarantee you, Chevron, Shell, every Phillips 66 would be in here like mad drilling. In 5 years, we'd be producing 100% of the oil and natural gas we need in California, Susan Shelley.
You're absolutely right. And, there was a report that the oil companies briefed the governor, and there was a closed-door briefing of the lawmakers that we're going to $8 to $10 a gallon gasoline when these refineries close, these 2 refineries that have announced their closing. So I think they just did an absolutely desperate Hail Mary to say, how can we prevent $10 a gallon gasoline in an election year? That's all they think about is when this is going to hit if it's an election year. And every 2 years it's an election year. And, thank you to the founding fathers for doing that for us, because we need that. We need them to always be worrying about the next election, because look at what they do when they're not worried about the next election. So that's what happened. They're desperately just casting around, trying to see if they can undo the damage they themselves have done to the energy industry in California.
Another one, the whole housing issue and this whole affordable housing thing that the government's trying to come up. The vagrant housing and $1 million for a 200 square foot hovel over there and all that. We just had a report in the Inland Empire. And they're bragging about this. Oh, they're producing workforce housing, which means housing for not even for middle class families. This is supposed to be for lower income families. 96 houses at $750K per house in the frickin' Inland Empire for Christ's sakes. I mean, and they're down there defending how they're making housing more affordable. I mean, the delusion of these cats, especially when they get into politics, is beyond amazing, Susan.
No, it's true. They have all of these different regulations and fees on developers. You hear these numbers that it costs $300,000 to put a shovel in the ground by the time you're finished with the lawyers and the fees, and it's just not working. If the goal is to build more housing, they should stop the policies that prevent it, but not only the policies that prevent the urban development. They should be worried about the environmental policies that prevent suburban development, because what they want is to have high density apartment buildings where everyone's a renter and no one has a house and no one has a yard, and that's the kind of development they want to encourage, while they prevent it in the suburbs where people could have single family homes. With better policies, we could have single-family homes. We could have more water and electricity and everything you need in order to have single-family homes, and people could get on the economic train to building equity and a stronger future for themselves, instead of creating this awful economy of renters where no one can ever get ahead. And they could do that, but they won't do that because they're just married to this idea that housing is bad for the climate unless it's an apartment. And that's just false and so destructive.
Switching gears, one of your columns this week, when does a shakedown become a federal crime, Susan Shelley?
Well, it caught my eye that the former House Speaker of the House of Representatives in the state of Illinois, known for corrupt politicians, he's going to prison for 7.5 years for corruption. And I looked at what they convicted him of, and son of a gun, everything he did, they do in California on a regular basis. For instance, they shake down Pacific Gas and Electric. He's going to prison over deals that had payments coming in from Commonwealth Edison, the big electric utility in Illinois. Well, what do we have in California? We have politicians asking Pacific Gas and Electric for giant donations, not just campaign donations, which are limited, these unlimited behested payments. And it's just so transparently political. For instance, Laura Friedman, who's now in Congress, when she was in the Assembly, she asked PG&E for payments of $5,000 on multiple occasions to give to the Armenian Legislative Caucus Foundation. Now, what's that? Well, it turns out that all of the different legislators in Sacramento have organized these nonprofits which don't do anything. They have a dinner, they have a gala. There's one for the Latino Legislative Caucus, a foundation, a 501c3. So these different industries can be shaken down to give these donations to the so-called nonprofit, and then the money is used for a giant gala at which they can all come and lobby. And this is legal in California. In Illinois, they'd be in handcuffs. So I'm not sure why the federal government prosecuted in Illinois and they're not prosecuting in California, but they certainly could. So stay tuned for that.
1,000%. I mean, I know Asaley's got his, we covered the ICE raids and stuff of that, where they're busting the MSC 13 gangs down there, which have been running downtown LA and LA for a long time, along with some others. The people don't get that. Those guys that are standing out in front of the Home Depot, they're not independent contractors. 98.7% of them. And you're aiming to find this stuff out. But this is the type of stuff that hopefully after they get a handle on some of this immigration stuff, that they will have enough time at the U.S. Attorney's Office here in California to really start digging in. And if there's one guy that's going to do it, and hopefully the U.S. Senate gets off their rear ends and officially confirms guys like Bill Asaley of that, so he is permanent U.S. Attorney out here, Mr. Thune, please, so we can actually get some of this stuff like what's happening in Illinois coming to California, Susan.
Yes, it would be nice to have. It would be nice to have a non-corrupt government in California, because things are not going well. We have the highest taxes. We have the worst roads. We have terrible services. We have the highest electricity prices because of these policies, and people can't pay these bills. Just wait until the July-August electric bills start coming in. I hope there are enough ambulances in California for all the heart attacks that are going to be caused by opening those envelopes. This is going to be brutal on people. And the legislature is married to this, we have to have green energy no matter what it costs. We have to get green energy, and we're saving the planet with this. Obviously, we're not saving the planet. It doesn't do anything. So why are we doing it? We're doing it because our elected officials are preening, egotistical, self-serving idiots.
You said that way better than I would have, but
well, clean. I said it cleaner anyway.
Yes, very. The other one, and switching gears again for your other column, but first, as bad as from worst to almost, or from first to almost worst, our California K through 12 system has went in California in the last 30 years. Where they learned all this stuff was from it started in our university system. We had the finest university system back in the 60s and 70s, probably in the world, definitely in the United States. This is where they started destroying education on that. But your column this week, which I'm sure proliferates or is a pretender of things to come, what's going on at UCLA, Susan?
Well, this was brought to my attention because I personally received an email from a professor at UCLA who runs a program called CLAFI, which is the Center for Liberal Arts and Free Institutions. And he would have lectures and movies and plays, and it would be different things from popular culture to classic literature, and then all kinds of experts would come in and discuss it. They do roundtable discussions, and it was all free, and it was all at UCLA, and very interesting stuff. And I get this letter saying that they have to shut down this program, which has been running since 2009. Why? Because there's a fiscal crisis at UCLA, and the organization was self-financing, but they had one administrator who was loaned to them from the humanities division to officially write the checks when they needed to do things on campus. And they can no longer have that administrator, even if they pay for that person themselves. Why? Because of this bureaucratic morass and fiscal crisis at UCLA. So I thought, I haven't even heard about this. What fiscal crisis at UCLA? And I look it up. I find one article in the Daily Bruin, the campus newspaper, documenting billions of dollars in deficits that they're not admitting to, and all kinds of problems. And I started looking a little further, and I see that the athletic program has lost $219 million in 6 years. How does that happen? And then there's a union that represents 37,000 workers in the UC system saying that it's out there fighting for social justice for the community. What is going on at UCLA? Now President Trump has frozen some research funds while they investigate anti-Semitism, and everybody's going to blame everything on him, but this was happening before that, and I just don't think there's been any reporting on it, so I wrote about it, and we'll see what turns up.
That's a shocker. I mean, their athletic program used to bring in bukus of dollars at UCLA. I mean, go back to John Wooden, the basketball dynasty, and their baseball team is, and their football teams went up and down, but their athletic department was like a cash cow for that industry or in university for decades. That's surprising that the once great dynasty of UCLA athletics is swirling down the toilet bowl. I wasn't even aware of that one.
I wasn't aware of any of this. It was just a total surprise to me, and nobody's covering it. Nobody's written about it. 6 years in a row, the athletic department has had a deficit, and UCLA had to come up with a $30 million gift for the previous fiscal year to the athletic department, and didn't even cover it. They still had a deficit of $51 million for the year. What is going on?
My theory is the chickens are coming home to roost. Our once great university system here of that, where, our elite students went to the universities of whatever, California, Berkeley, even that, or Davis or UCLA or wherever. That was, the cream of the crop was that. Now that we've dumbed down the standards and we're paying these professors god-awful compensation rates, $500,000 to show up at a class once every 3 weeks or something. And then, giving out degrees in Mongolian basket weaving or whatever they've done. I think this is what they're doing. And now that the Trump administration's coming here and looking at it and saying, you know what? All the federal funds for this stuff are getting canceled. They're probably going, holy bleep, Susan.
I really wonder, one of the things that was covered in the Daily Bruin article is that the university has a ratio of employees to students that's nearly 1-to-1. That sounds like a problem. And when you consider that all of these employees are unionized and you have all of the benefits and all of the extra expenses that go with that, maybe they've just been feather bedding and not only padding these huge salaries of the administrators and the faculty, but also padding the service workers and at the medical center. Who knows what to do? Professor Lowenstein from Claffey said it was fiscal mismanagement and a crisis and a bureaucratic morass at UCLA. So I think there's a story there. It's a little beyond my ability to cover it all by myself, so I thought I'd just write what I know and see what develops, because obviously something is happening there that needs to be addressed. By the way, Eleni Kounalakis is one of the regents of UC, and so she should be asked, since she's running for governor, what she knows about this mismanagement and how long it's been going on.
I'd love to hear that answer. That would be... The cockroach who we've never heard from in her, 7 years that she's been the lieutenant governor or whatever it has been of that, it's absolutely that. Here's my suggestion. I would take the one piece of it. I would check the ratio of student to faculty. I'd go back like 3 or 4 decades and see what it is. If it's anywhere, it shouldn't even be, it should be like maybe 1 in 20, 1 in 15, maybe, not 1 in 1, or even anything in single digits would be ridiculous, but that's something that's
really,
that's I can't
more than you have at a daycare center, and those kids can't change their own diapers. So this is
well, maybe they can. Maybe that's the problem. The students over there, with all the rioting that was going on back in the in the day over there, maybe that is the problem. We got about a minute left. Tell them why they should join HJTA Go.
The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is the best organization in California fighting for taxpayers. HJTA.org. Be a member. Don't just watch from the sidelines. Cancel the U-Haul. Don't leave California. We can fix the problems that are here, but we have to work together. So join HJTA at hjta.org, fighting for you in the legislature, in the courts, and on the ballot. An initiative coming later this summer. Watch for it.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you, Roy.
You got it. Susan Shelley there, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and editorial columnist for Southern California News Group. Man, what a deal. That shocked too. UCLA's sports department is running a humongous deficit. Not that I wouldn't be totally shocked. But if the student to faculty ratio or employee ratio was 1-to-1 at UCLA, no wonder they're going broke. No entity, government, private, could survive, even come close. The only way they could survive is they point a gun at us, take our money, and then give it to UCLA and the likes. Man, we're in a heap of trouble. Catch some of the local news before we bail out today. Rancho Cucamonga police are out on safety patrol. What the hell is going on? Kids going back to school on August 6th? I've been seeing this all. Schools opening up at the 1st of August. Now, you talk about a riot. Back in my day, there'd have been they would have had to send out the ICE agents to roll us in to get us back to school on that. It was Labor Day. The day after Labor Day is when school started. 66 dogs and cats and animals have been rescued in the fires that are burning in Riverside County, so good news of that. Runaway teen investigation leads to human trafficking arrest from Riverside Police Department. Paris had a successful coffee with the cops, so good job then. Of course, National Night Out all across the nation in the Inland Empire was last night. I was a little disappointed in the one at Moreno Valley, but I hope some of the others were better. Pedestrian killed in a collision with a pickup Monday morning, say Redlands cops. City of Chino responded to a retail theft in progress, and they recovered and made arrests on stolen goods and made an arrest. 1 dead, 3 injured in a Riverside head-on collision in San Jacinto. O'Day Short Elementary, dedicated in Fontana, righting an old wrong from 1945. Richard Ferris from Moreno Valley 50 was arrested in Boyle Heights on 2 brothers who were murdered in Moreno Valley, so cold case arrest from 2006. Firefighters rescue a woman trapped in a small chimney. That was from ABC 7. Here was the male thief. Ricky Estrada, the Menifee mayor, is being called up for a 6-month military deployment. He's a reserve Air Force guy, so he'll be off of that, and I think that's a legitimate excused absence. Redlands Police Department discovered skeletal remains in a field out there, so I'm sure they'll be taking care of that. Studio City man has a bloody encounter with a theft suspect. Maybe we'll cover more of that tomorrow. Yes, the Elon Musk and Trump need to come back together. The big story broke today or yesterday about that the gang members that were doing a carjacking on the man and woman in that happened to be big balls from the Doge. Remember, the whole deal went out. That was him. He was the one who was trying to protect his girlfriend. They beat the crap out of him. That's why Trump's said he's taking over D.C., and then he's going to take over LA come the Olympic times, which he may have a point on that. As in everything else, we're going to fix this stuff, as we said. And we're not putting up with those crap. Like the dudes who took care of the mail thief. Said, oh, do you like you want to steal mail? Do you like this? And again, we don't advocate violence or doing anything illegal. But most dangerous living creature is one who doesn't have nothing to lose. That'll do it for today. Mandatory, you're back here in 23 Hours Wide. We're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.